My name is Carol N. Hotchkiss, and I'm 30 years old. 3 weeks ago, I watched my husband of 5 years fall apart in our living room. The same living room where he had told me more times than I could count that his family would always come before me. It was the same room where I had swallowed my pride so often that I forgot what it tasted like. But that night, when Daniel needed me most, I finally said what I had been holding in for years. I met Daniel when we were both 24. He was charming, funny, and warm in that effortless way that made people feel like they had known him forever. He talked about family like it was sacred, and at first, I loved that about him. I thought it meant loyalty. I thought it meant roots. I thought it meant he would build something strong with me. We dated for a year before he proposed, and 6 months later, we were married. I remember standing beside him on our wedding day, believing I had become his family. I was wrong. The problem started almost immediately after the wedding. Daniel's family was close, but not the healthy kind of close. His parents, Helen and Robert, his older sister Tessa, and his younger brother Brian were involved in everything. Our weekends, our money, our holidays, our decisions. Nothing belonged only to us. 3 months into our marriage, Daniel and I had planned our first real vacation as husband and wife, a cabin near the coast. 4 quiet days. No work. No family obligations. I had been looking forward to it for weeks. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, Daniel came home looking guilty. "My mom called," he said. I already felt my stomach sink. "What happened?" "Tessa is having a really hard time. Her boyfriend broke up with her and Mom thinks we should all go to the lake house this weekend to support her." I stared at him. "Daniel, we already paid for the cabin." "I know, but she's really struggling. What do you want?" He looked away. "My family comes first, Carol. They always have. You knew that when you married me." I canceled the cabin and lost half the deposit. Then I spent 4 days at his parents' lake house watching Tessa cry into smoothies while Helen told her she was too good for any man. I sat on the dock alone, staring at the water, wondering why marriage suddenly felt like being invited into someone else's life as a guest. That became the pattern. When my father had a health scare, Daniel could not come to the hospital with me because Brian had a crisis at work and needed emotional support. When I got promoted and wanted to celebrate, Daniel's parents announced a last-minute dinner, and he promised we would celebrate another time. Another time never came. The financial betrayals were worse. A year into our marriage, Daniel's parents asked for $20,000 to renovate their kitchen. "It is not really a loan," Daniel said. "It is family. That is half our savings. They will pay it back." They never did. That money could have helped us buy a house. Instead, it became granite countertops in a kitchen where Helen still criticized how I chopped vegetables. Then came Tessa's business opportunity. She had bounced from job to job for years, but suddenly she wanted to open a boutique event planning company. Daniel came to me glowing with hope. "She is passionate about this. She just needs startup money." "How much?" $35,000. I actually laughed. "We do not have $35,000. We could take out a personal loan." No. The fight that followed lasted 2 days. Daniel accused me of not understanding family loyalty. I accused him of treating me like an ATM with a wedding ring. His parents eventually co-signed a loan for Tessa, but Daniel changed after that. Colder, quieter, like I had failed a test I never agreed to take. The night everything changed was 4 months ago. We were eating dinner when Helen called. Daniel hung up and said, "Mom needs help with the family reunion this weekend. I told her we would cover the catering." "How much?" "About $3,000. You told her we would pay $3,000 without asking me?" "It is family," he said. "We have bills. The car needs brakes." He put his fork down. "My family always comes first. They always have and they always will. You need to accept that by now." I looked at him for a long moment. Something in me shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet click, like a lock turning. I smiled. "You're right," I said. "I understand." Daniel looked relieved. Really? Really? Your family comes first. He went back to eating, satisfied, like he had finally taught me my place. That night, while he slept, I sat at my computer and changed everything. My paycheck moved from our joint account to a new personal account. I started documenting every family request, every payment, every canceled plan. Every moment I had been asked to disappear so Daniel's family could take up more space. Then I called a lawyer named Patricia. She told me the money already given would be hard to recover, but going forward, anything in my separate account was mine. The reunion came and went. I smiled. I paid the catering bill. I made small talk with Helen while she praised Tessa's courage for starting over. But inside, I was no longer waiting to be chosen. I was counting down. 2 months after my I understand moment, Tessa's boutique event planning dream collapsed. I wish I could say I was surprised. She had spent more time designing a logo than learning how to run a business. She rented a tiny office she did not need, bought furniture she could not afford, hired a photographer for branding shots, and posted inspirational quotes about entrepreneurship while ignoring invoices. When the clients did not magically appear, she blamed the economy, the market, the algorithms, and anyone except herself. Then the bank started calling. Because Daniel's parents had co-signed the loan, they were suddenly on the hook for $40,000. Daniel came home pale one evening, phone still clutched in his hand. "They might lose the house," he said. I looked up from my laptop. "Who?" "My parents. Because of Tessa's loan. We need to help." There it was again. We, the smallest word in our marriage, had become the heaviest. "Daniel," I said carefully, "we cannot absorb your parents' debt." He looked at me like I had slapped him. "They could lose everything. Tessa borrowed money she could not repay. Your parents co-signed without thinking about what would happen. That is not our debt. It is family." I closed my laptop. "When does it get to be us?" He stared at me, truly confused, like the question had no place in the room. That was when I took out my phone and opened the notes I had been keeping. Dates, amounts, canceled plans. Every time his family needed something, and every time our marriage had been expected to shrink around it. "The $20,000 for the kitchen," I said. "The $3,000 for the reunion. The vacation we canceled for Tessa. The hospital visit you missed when my father was sick. The promotion dinner we never had." "Do you want me to keep going?" His face went pale. "You have been keeping track?" I had to start protecting myself somehow. Daniel left that night and stayed with his parents for 3 days. When he came back, he did not apologize. He only said, "I will always help my family when they need it. That is who I am. And I cannot keep sacrificing our future for their present," I said. After that, our house became quiet in the worst way. We spoke politely. We shared bills. We slept in the same bed but turned away from each other like strangers afraid of touching old bruises. 6 weeks later, the real emergency happened. I was at work when Daniel called me, sobbing so hard I could barely understand him. "It is Brian," he said. "Car accident. He is in surgery. My car will not start. I need to get to the hospital. Please, Carol, please come get me." I was already standing before he finished. Whatever had happened between us, Brian was hurt. I grabbed my keys and left. When I pulled into the driveway, Daniel ran out of the house and threw himself into the passenger seat. His hands were shaking. "Thank you. Please hurry." I drove while he called Helen for updates. Brian was still in surgery. Serious injuries, but not immediately life-threatening. A drunk driver had run a red light. Halfway to the hospital, Daniel grabbed my hand. "I know things have been hard between us," he said, crying, "but thank you for being here. I know I can always count on you." Something about those words hit me harder than anything else. I pulled the car over. Daniel turned toward me, panicked. "What are you doing? We need to go." "I know," I said, "but I need to say something first." "Carol, not now." "Yes, now." He froze. "You said you can always count on me," I said. "But when was the last time I could count on you?" His mouth opened, but nothing came out. "When my father was in the hospital, you were not there. When I lost that major account at work and came home shaking, you were too busy helping your mother plan Brian's birthday party. When I asked for one weekend, one dinner, one moment where I mattered more than the next crisis from your family, you could not give it to me. Tears rolled down his face. That is not fair. You told me your family always comes first, exact words. And I finally understood. I was never going to be your family. Not really. I am coming to you now, aren't I? No, I said softly. You are coming to me because you need something. That is the only time you come to me. The silence after that was brutal. I started driving again. I will take you to the hospital. I will stay with you. But when this is over, I am done. Brian survived. Broken leg, internal bruising, concussion, but he would recover. I stayed at the hospital for 6 hours. I brought coffee. I sat quietly while Daniel leaned against my shoulder. His parents barely acknowledged me. The next morning, Daniel acted like our conversation in the car had never happened. He made breakfast, talked about Brian's recovery, and asked if I could drive him back to the hospital. No, I said. He blinked. What? I have my own things to do. You can call an Uber or ask your parents. His face fell. Carol, I meant what I said. I am done being used. That week, I moved into the guest bedroom and called Patricia again. We prepared the paperwork. Helen called me directly the next day. I do not know what game you are playing, but you need to stop. Daniel is devastated. With respect, Helen, this is between me and my husband. You are abandoning him while his brother is in the hospital. No, I drove him there. I stayed 6 hours. I was there. But I will not be manipulated into staying in a marriage where I am treated like a background character. She went silent. The 20,000 for your kitchen. The reunion. Every weekend I gave up. Every plan canceled. I gave and gave. And all I got back was the reminder that I would never matter as much as you. I took a breath. I am not the villain here. I am a woman who finally realized her worth. I hung up. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago. Daniel tried to reconcile. He showed up at my new apartment with red eyes and trembling hands. I will do better. I will set boundaries. I did not realize how much I was hurting you. You did not realize because you never asked, I said. And I did not speak up enough because I kept hoping you would see it on your own. We both failed this marriage. But I cannot keep sacrificing myself while waiting for you to change. So that is it, he asked. 5 years just gone? No, I said. 5 years taught me what I cannot survive again. He left crying. I am not proud of the relief I felt when the door closed behind him. But I will not lie about it either. Here is where everyone ended up. Tessa moved back in with her parents, her credit ruined, already talking about another big idea. Helen and Robert sold the lake house to cover debts and downsized to a condo. Helen still blames me for destroying her son's happiness. Brian recovered and actually sent me a message apologizing for never making me feel welcome. Too little too late, but I appreciated it. Daniel kept our old house. He started therapy. I hope he learns how to love someone without making them compete with his entire family. As for me, I am rebuilding. I reconnected with my own parents. My dad and I have dinner every other Sunday now. My mom cries sometimes because she says she feels like she finally got her daughter back. I am dating again. Slowly. Nothing serious yet. But for the first time in years, I feel allowed to have needs. Allowed to take up space. Allowed to be someone's priority. That night in the car, when Daniel said he could always count on me, I finally said the sentence that broke the last illusion between us. You can always count on me, but I can never count on you. He had no answer. Sometimes there is not one.